Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Are we watching the makings of a dictator? Is President Joe Biden, I can't believe I said that word, but is President Joe Biden shaping up to be America's first dictator? Guys, I don't think I'm being hyperbolic with this. I want to talk to you about several things today on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. The Second Amendment, I want you to understand this. I want you to hear this. The Second Amendment exists to make sure that the federal government always works for you and not against you. Did you hear me? The Second Amendment exists to make sure that the federal government always works for you and not against you. Secondly, the left wants to replace God's moral code, that is the Ten Commandments, with CRT, with DEI, with this trans craze and every other communist, crazy, chaotic thing they can think of. Don't let them do it. They only want to feel as though they're morally superior to people of faith. They are not. Stay tuned for this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. We got a quick program or some quick program messaging, and then we'll be right back. All right, so several things I want to talk to you about. In the intro, I told you that I believe Joe Biden is shaping up to be America's first dictator. Carl, now you've gone too far. This is insane. Okay. I'm going to bring you a few stories today, some headlines, Jackson's 5, and I'm going to tie them together. Before I do, I want to make sure that I tell you today's podcast is brought to you in part by Pure Health. All right. If you're looking to ignite your fat burning metabolism, if you want to boost your energy and transform how you look and how you feel, you've got to start taking care of your liver. So fatty liver affects 100 million Americans. That's 1/3 of us, guys. This is why so many of us struggle with weight gain and lower energy levels. It's manufactured in the USA. It's approved by American doctors, and it contains 12 powerful botanicals clinically proven to recharge and to protect your liver. Try Liver Health Formula risk-free and receive a free bottle of nano-powered omega-3 to keep your heart healthy as well. So you can claim your special offer today by going to getliverhelp.com/Carl. That's getliverhelp.com/Carl. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? Carl, you have gone cray-cray. You have gone insane. You are a right-wing radical. You are a right-wing extremist. First off, there's no such thing as a right-wing extremist. I'm going to do a short on that relatively soon because I want to break that down. There's no such thing as a Republican extremist. There's no such thing as a right-wing extremist in the United States of America. We'll break that down, or we'll save that for another day. By the way, I just want to make a quick mention of this because it isn't in Jackson's 5, but obviously, actually two things, but obviously they're big news. So let me just make mention of them. I won't go in detail with this today. I will take it on tomorrow. So Moody's Investor Service has downgraded the U.S. banking system to a negative, quote unquote, following the worst bank failures that we've seen since 2008. In other words, Joe Biden didn't inspire any type of confidence coming out and saying that he was going to shore up his donors from the SVB bank. And make no mistake about it, it's Biden's left-wing donors. That's why they're shoring them up. Another big topic that hit yesterday that we all saw, God forbid, I pray to God. And guys, you need to be praying. If you're people of faith, if you believe in the power of prayer, you need to be praying that we do not enter World War III. However, I will say this, and I don't say this to be hyperbolic. I don't say this to be to be an alarmist. But there's no doubt in my mind that Vladimir Putin, that Xi Jinping, that all of these dictators, Iran, around the world are going to take advantage of Joe Biden because everybody knows he's weak. So they're going to take advantage and try to take advantage of him while he's in the White House, take advantage of their position and their standing. They're going to try to increase their territory, so to speak, while Joe Biden is in the White House. And I don't know what's going to happen as a result of that. But suffice it to say, you guys may have heard the news yesterday that a Russian jet collided with a U.S. drone over the Black Sea, and it causing our U.S. drone to crash. All right, so this from Town Hall. The U.S. European Command said on Tuesday afternoon that a Russian jet had collided with an unmanned U.S. Air Force drone. It was in international airspace over the Black Sea west of Crimea. So obviously it's not U.S. airspace or NATO airspace. But nonetheless, I think Russia was trying to send a message. So this is a new twist in Russia's bloody war against Ukraine that has seen significant aid from the U.S., but no direct contact between American and Russian forces. Again, I think the Russian people were trying, or Vladimir Putin was trying to send a message. Now, I'm not going to get into detail on these topics. Again, I'm going to touch on them tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about dictatorship even more tomorrow, and I'm going to tie these in. I'm going to talk about what it looks like when you see the makings of a dictatorship, how to kind of point things out or how to spot things or sense things for yourself. But I want to give you some clear examples that perhaps you may not have considered when I make the case today that I believe that we are looking at America's first dictator. Now, I don't think that he's going to be completely successful, but there's no doubt about it that he's trying. So let me just read you some of the headlines and we'll go through these in just a sec. So Biden gets $3 million from a Chinese energy company. That spells corruption. A Vermont Christian girls basketball team or a Christian school in Vermont and their girls basketball team that refused to play against a transgender athlete are banned. The girls team is banned from the sporting event for refusing to play against a dude. Biden announces, this is a very big one, obviously, right? We have SVB Bank going on, inflation, all this kind of stuff. The economy is in dire straits. We got man, you know what I meant to include and I didn't. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So you got Biden with this executive order that wants to increase background checks when it comes to firearms, and he wants to ramp up red flag laws. Now, there's a lot of well-intentioned people that are really dumb enough to believe. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I don't mean to be mean. That are naive enough to believe or to buy into the left's arguments that fewer guns on the street means less crime. They don't know that there are over 2 million gun defenses every single year in the United States, give or take. All right. Where good guys stop bad guys with guns because the only stories that they ever hear about or see in the mainstream media are about mass shootings, some robbery, some rape, some murder. Those are the only stories that people hear about. And so they tend to believe guns are bad, bad, bad. But if we were to report or if you were to hear reports of all the good gun uses daily, you would change your mind about the Second Amendment and firearms. The mainstream media knows this. Make sure you check out Mark Walters, Armed American Radio. He's part of the Salem Network. Mark Walters of Armed American Radio. Also, John Lott, he has his Crime Prevention Research Institute. Make sure you check his stuff out. So we have that. So we've got Biden gets $3 million from a Chinese energy company. A Christian girls basketball team has refused to play against a transgender athlete. And they've been canceled. You got Biden announcing executive orders, increasing background checks and ramping up red flag laws. You have an event with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA at UC Davis, and we'll play some audio and video for you later, where the chancellor basically calls Charlie Kirk a hater, or provocateur, or a propagandist of hate, or something to this effect. This is what's happening in our university systems. All of this is happening under the leadership of Biden and the left. And Biden is taking advantage of this to secure more power for himself. There's a lot of people working around Biden. There's a lot of people that are using Biden, but also Biden, admittedly, before he came into office, he wanted to be bigger and badder than FDR and Obama. He wanted a bigger progressive legacy that he left behind than them. And he's going really far. He's going really far. I would say he's worse than FDR. He's worse than Obama. And I got to admit, even a couple of months ago, I wasn't saying that because I was like, without Obama, Biden would not have been able to go as far left as he has. And that is very true. That is very true. But this guy is doing so much stuff where I'm like, okay, he's determined. to be the most radical president, left-wing radical president ever. And it looks like he will succeed in doing that. So we're going to take on some of these issues. Tucker Carlson, which unfortunately, I don't know why I didn't have Gabe grab this video. He showed last night another damning video on, as far as the J6 protesters are concerned, where one of the J6 protesters literally walked into the Capitol building. There were tons of Capitol police standing in front of him. The guy goes around. He tries to walk into the Capitol. The police are there telling him to get out. Literally in less than a minute, or approximately a minute, the guy comes in, busts a U-turn, and is ushered out. And now he's facing literally years in prison. Years in prison. So I think what Tucker Carlson is doing, and last week I was very concerned, as were many of you, that maybe Fox News had silenced Tucker Carlson, censored him to some extent. Slow down. And maybe behind the scenes, to some extent, they have. I don't know the answer to that. But I think what Tucker Carlson is doing, if in fact this is what he's doing, and I heard Julie Kelly say that she believes that what he's doing, instead of overwhelming the system, so to speak, with a bunch of the J6 tapes, he's taking down the biggest narratives that the left used with video evidence against the left, which simultaneously helps out some of the J6 protesters, right, and their attorneys. All right, so he's knocking down some of the left's biggest arguments. So now let's get into these stories one by one. First, let me start here. Hat tip Breitbart. The Biden family business received a $3 million wire transfer from a Chinese energy company and subsequent payments after President Joe Biden left the vice presidency under Barack Obama in 2017. This, according to the House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer. He announced this upon receiving suspicious activity reports from the Treasury this week. Those suspicious activity reports are known as SARS. The article goes on to say the U.S. banks have flagged, and I've shared this before, but I'm just going to reiterate or review some of these points so that it's fresh in your mind. Okay, so bear with me. The U.S. banks have flagged over 150 SARS. Again, those are suspicious activity reports from Hunter and James Biden, the brother of Joe Biden, that included, quote unquote, large amounts of money flagged for further review. All right. And this, according to a 2020 Senate report, often contain evidence, or SARS often contain evidence of potential crime activities such as money laundering and fraud, close quote. All right. So again, SARS often contain evidence of potential criminal activities such as money laundering or fraud. So you wire $10,000, around the globe, across whatever, the United States, whatever, it's automatically flagged as a suspicious activity report. All right, because they figure it's a drug dealer, it's some criminal. People don't typically send or regularly send $10,000 to someone or wire them $10,000 or more. Well, this happened to the Biden family, and it was well over that amount. According to bank documents, going back to Breitbart, we've already obtained, we know one company owned by a Biden associate received a $3 million wire from a Chinese energy company 2 months after Joe Biden left the vice presidency. This, according to James Comer. Soon after, hundreds of thousands of dollars and payouts went to members of the Biden family. Remember, the Biden family had previously negotiated a deal with the CEFC, which Joe Biden, known as the big guy, would receive a 10% cut of Hunter's ventures or business deals. This, according to Tony Bobolinsky. Remember, he sat down with Tucker Carlson in an interview in 2017. Hunter earned 1 million buckaroonies as a legal retainer fee from the company's chairman. That's a guy by the name of Yi Jianming. Hunter also received a large diamond from Yi worth an estimated 80 grand. This was in 2017. The suspicious activity reports also likely show money paid to Hunter and James Biden, again, the brother of Joe Biden, for their work with the Ukrainian energy company. Remember, that was Barrymore back in April 2014. Hunter joined the board of Barrymore just 2 years before before Joe Biden stated he forced the firing of prosecutor Victor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma and investigating Hunter Biden. All right. That was in Ukraine being corrupt as hell. All right. So despite Hunter's lack of experience in Ukraine or with their energy sector, he was paid $83,000 per month or $1 million a year to sit on the board of Burisma. So this is just reviewing some of the corruption that exists. Dictators are always corrupt. They're always corrupt. They're always going to hook up their friends. They're always going to hook up the elite, the people that will empower them. SVB. All right. They're always going to make money for themselves. They're going to create this. They're going to destroy the middle class. They're going to create a society of the have and the have-nots. That's exactly what Joe Biden are doing. This is what Comer went on to say, and I quote, "We're going to continue to use bank documents and suspicious activity reports to follow the money trail to determine the extent of the Biden family schemes. If Joe Biden is compromised by these deals and if there is a national security threat." We know Joe Biden is compromised. You don't think China knows what Joe Biden was up to when an energy company of theirs, and these energy companies, all of these businesses in China are state-owned or state-ran for the most part. They claim to be independent. They're not. We all know that in a communist society. The Treasury's compliant to disclose the SARS is a massive development in the probe of the Biden family business, or Biden Inc., because it's taken 2 months to get the information. The Treasury had previously refused to disclose the banking documents to the committee and even backed out from attending a committee hearing last Friday. And then Comer says, quote, "After 2 months of dragging their feet, the Treasury Department is finally providing us with access to the suspicious activity reports for the Biden family and their associates' business transactions." I don't know if someone is telling the Treasury Department, because make no mistake about it, you know, when Republicans are in office, they're like, these institutions are independent and stuff like that. And for the most part, under Republicans, they seem to be. But when it comes to left-wing radicals like this, these guys don't play around. They put their left-wing radical homies in these places, and they are expected to follow orders from the White House. And in my opinion, that's what's happening with the Treasury Department. However, I will say this. We're entering the presidential election cycle. A lot of these people are afraid to lose their jobs, perhaps afraid to go to jail. And a lot of them do not want Joe Biden as the president of the United States after 2024. So I suspect you'll start seeing more information come out on the Biden crime family. All right. Comer says it should never have taken us threatening to hold a hearing and conduct a transcribed interview with an official under the penalty of perjury for Treasury or to finally accommodate part of our request. For over 20 years, Congress had access to these reports, but the Biden administration changed the rules out of the blue to restrict our ability to conduct oversight. Why would the Biden administration change the ability of the oversight committee to look at SARS reports out of the blue, unless he was corrupt? But that's what dictators do. Guys, we are looking at the making of a dictator. If this guy were to get a second term, oh my Lord. Look at how AG Merrick Garland is being used to prosecute J6 protesters and make them political prisoners. And stay tuned for what I'm about to tell you when it comes to what they're doing. And actually, I'm going to go into what the ATF is doing. I'll do that tomorrow as well. We are looking at the makings of a dictator in the United States of America. I am not being hyperbolic. It's a shame that we have to offer all these caveats when the obvious is taking place right before our eyes. This guy's trying to take power from we the people like nobody's business. You know, Barack Obama was more systematic. This guy isn't. He's just swinging for the fences because he's a worthless piece of crap. He has nothing to show for his entire life. He's been in Washington, D.C. all of his entire life. He's an immature, insecure jerk. And so he wants to leave a legacy behind. And that's what he's doing. You had Peter Schweitzer. He published a book, Secret Empires, Profiles in Corruption. Red-Handed was another one. Each book hit number one. But anyway, he exposed how Hunter Biden and Joe Biden flew aboard Air Force Two back in 2013 to China before Hunter's firm, an investment firm that he just created out of the blue with his business partner, inked a $1.5 billion deal. with the subsidiary of the Chinese government's Bank of China. This was less than 2 weeks after the trip. Guys, Hunter Biden is a crackhead. I sometimes I want to be careful how I say that, because I say that I mention that he's a crackhead, not because in some instances I'll be honest with that. I feel sorry for Hunter Biden sometimes. That's not to say that I don't believe he's not a horrible person. I think he is. I think his behavior is despicable, all of that good stuff. But I don't think Hunter Biden would be the Hunter Biden he is if he didn't have this father, Joe Biden. I think it's a direct reflection of who Joe Biden is when we watch Hunter Biden. But imagine being a crackhead and inking a $1.5 billion deal with an investment firm with absolutely no experience that you just started up. Guys, this is the makings of a dictator that we are watching in the White House. I want to make sure, guys, please subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Please subscribe. Please like, rate, review them. If you're on YouTube, if you go to YouTube, guys, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. If you prefer Rumble, we are on there as well. All right. So now let's get to this next story. Actually, let me read this from the tip sheet, because I want to read this story about these basketball girls, Christian basketball girls that refuse to play with a dude. And now they're the ones that are being canceled. Carl, how is this? How are you linking back? How are you linking this back to Biden? He's perpetuating this nonsense. Did you guys see the video of him calling Ron DeSantis, or saying the policies that Governor DeSantis here in Florida has put into place to make sure that children are mutilated is, he quoted his mother or grandmother or something. It's basically sinful. I'm paraphrasing. I should have had that video. I hate when I start rolling and then I forget the video that I should have asked Gabe to pull up. But I'm sure many of you guys have seen this video. The left has to take advantage of chaos. They have to take advantage of people's emotion in order to secure power. That's exactly what when I say this, people are already, all right, but that's exactly what Hitler did. All right. Germany was a brilliant country of learning and arts and mechanics, and they were doing fine before World War I. And then they started losing the battle in World War I, and they got embarrassed after World War I. France and Britain, our allies, wanted to make sure that they had retribution after World War I. A lot of the German people did not realize how badly they had performed. They went to this country that was just plentiful with money and, again, arts and inventors and all this kind of stuff, to just being disgraced on the world stage. And that set the precedent for Hitler to be able to take advantage of people's emotions, or capitalize on people's emotions, and rise into power using their emotions. This is essentially what happened. And they begin to embrace things that they wouldn't have, the German people, that they would not have embraced before. And this is the same thing that is happening with the left in our country. Like, the left creates, this is the difference. So the left creates chaos. This trans movement, this stuff just blew up in the last few years. There are several billionaire donors pushing this crap from behind the scenes, and it just blew up. And all of us, 99% of us, who just a few years ago realized that gender dysphoria was a sincere mental disorder. Now you've got literally half the population, it seems like, caving to the idea that dudes can be chicks and chicks can be dudes. And that is not true. That is not true. So I go back to the point that I made at the top of the podcast. The left wants to replace God's moral code, that is the 10 Commandments, with their own moral codes. And those moral codes are CRT, DEI, the trans craze, or whatever other chaotic crap that they bring up. But they are useful idiots. A lot of these people are useful idiots to the left. Just like many people in Germany were useful idiots when it came to Hitler's rise. But dictators sense this. They know this. They take advantage of people's emotions when people are not being logical, when they're not being reasonable. And then these people will vote for things or promote things that they would have never done so before. Hold on to God's moral code. That is the 10 Commandments, and that is biblical truth. That's the moral code. That is the standard. People of faith, people in the conservative movement, stop being ashamed of what you believe. Because if you continue to remain ashamed, if you continue to remain silent, the left are going to take over this country. So here is the story. Here is the story real quick. Vermont Christian school banned from participating in future tournaments. All right. So hat tip to the National Review. A Christian school has been excluded from competing in future tournaments that have been sanctioned by the Vermont Principals Association after its girls basketball team forfeited a match against an opposing team that includes a dude who identifies as a girl. All right. The VPA, again, the Vermont Principals Association. Wow. The Vermont Principals Association, the governing body that oversees high school sports in Vermont, ruled that the Mid-Vermont Christian School can no longer participate in any VPA-sponsored competitions across all sports because the school violated 2 human rights policies concerning 1, gender identity, and 2, commitment to racial, gender, fair, and disability awareness. These people in Vermont are complete and utter idiots. They are useful idiots, as a matter of fact, for the communist movement that we see happening right before our face. And useful idiots, in my opinion, are just as dangerous as Joe Biden in the White House. They don't give a damn about the girls. They want to help promote this idea that a dude can be a chick. And a dude can never be a chick. I don't care how you get sliced and diced. I don't care what type of makeup you put on. I don't care what type of wig you throw on or how you grow your hair or what clothing you wear. A dude can never, ever be a woman. And I'm not mean for saying it. You guys that are out there promoting it are mean for telling a person that they cannot be who God created them to be, but instead they got to be who you want them to be so that you feel moral. Because that's exactly what's happening. Let's be real. Moving on. Now, Biden gets $3 million. I talked about that. The Christian girl. Okay. Now this, Biden announces an executive order increasing background checks, ramping up his use of red flag laws. All right. Now this is a big freaking deal. This is a big freaking deal. Anything having to do with 2A rights is a big freaking deal. All right. And I've spoke about this briefly at the top of the podcast, so I won't spend too much time on this. But I do want to make mention of what transpired yesterday. All right. And now, again, I want you to understand this. I want you to get this through your thick skulls for those of you that are anti-Second Amendment. The Second Amendment exists to make sure that the federal government, Gabe, this is good. I hope you're getting this on camera. I hope you're planning on breaking this up because this is just so good. Sometimes I want to pat myself on the back, but I don't want to seem too cocky, but this is good. I want you to get this. The Second Amendment exists to make sure that the federal government always works for you and not against you. Hear me. The Second Amendment exists to make sure that the federal government works for you and not against you. Understand that. You have no power to curtail or to deter or to stop a dictator if you don't have the weaponry to do so. That sounds tough, but that's what the Second Amendment is about. You've got to get that. And what the left will do, all you'll hear are the stories of mass shootings and rape, robber, mayhem, murder, all this kind of stuff. Those are all the things that the mainstream media will put into the spotlight. What they won't put into the spotlight is when a police officer draws a gun to stop a murderer. What they won't put into a spotlight is when a carjacker or get stopped by a man or woman that's able to pull out their weapon. What they won't put in the media is how many times daily a woman who will likely be a rape victim just shows her sidearm or pulls her sidearm out of her purse. And as a result of that, she is not a rape victim. This is what the media will never show you. Because if they show you this, you will understand how important guns are in everyday life, not just against a tyrannical government. So this is the stuff they don't want you to see. Hat tip National Review. Biden is set to announce, and he did, this was yesterday, an executive order. So let's just say Biden announced an executive order yesterday, Tuesday, to increase the number of background checks required for gun sales and to intensify implementation of laws that permit courts to confiscate firearms from individuals that are deemed dangerous. Carl, what problem do you have with universal background checks? None, because I am a gun owner. And guess what? I've already gone through background checks. This is why this stuff, these people are straight liars. Anyone that purchases a gun legally, listen to me. This is a very important word. Anyone that purchases a gun, a firearm legally is actually intent on making sure they handle a firearm properly. They're not going out most times, actually 99% of the time, to kill somebody. 99.9% of the time, I would say, to kill somebody. It doesn't happen that way. I went through the legal process to be able to purchase firearms. And so does anyone that goes into a gun store or one of the, what are they called? Now it escapes me. The things that they always demonize, these gun shows. I've bought firearms from gun shows. They do a background check on the spot, just like they do in a gun store. Just like they go through they do the same thing. Now, there may be at times people in the parking lot, I don't know, selling weapons to whatever. It's a free America. You can do that. But when it comes to gun shows, inside of those gun shows, it's a lie that people just sell guns willy-nilly. Doesn't happen like that. They follow the same rules and regulations that gun stores do. And I bought a few guns from gun shows. So they're just straight up lying to you. So when Biden talks about he wants to intensify background checks, that's not true. What he wants to do is do the Minority Report. If you're a patriot, if you're a Trump supporter, if you were at the J6, mostly peaceful protest, they want to be able to look into the system, find you, and make sure they find something on you. They want to create a crime. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. The executive order was announced in Monterey Park, California, near the site of a recent mass shooting, you guys may recall. It will direct AG Merrick Garland to guarantee that gun sellers, quote, who do not realize they are required to run background checks. There is no gun dealer. Let me read the quote before I just flip my freaking wig, which I don't even have. So that would make it extra special. All right. So this let me just read it again. I'm sorry. The executive order was announced in Monterey Park, California, near the site of a mass shooting. And it'll direct AG Merrick Garland, the little weasel, to guarantee that gun sellers, quote, who do not realize they are required to run background checks under existing law or who are willfully violating existing law become compliant with background check requirement. This, according to a summary published by the White House. This is a damn lie. There isn't one gun store that you will walk into in the freaking country that doesn't know you're supposed to perform a background check. They will not sell you a gun without a background check. This is a lie. So the federal government can go even further. This is a lie, and they know it is a lie. With the order, the Biden administration admits its aims to get us as close as possible to adopting universal background checks without having to go through the normal legislative process. And again, this is a lie because we already have background checks. Now, background checks wouldn't have stopped the shooting in Monterey Park, by the way. The 18-year-old shooter who killed 19 students and 3 adults at Robb Elementary, either in Uvalde, Texas, had no criminal record that would have appeared on a background check because he purchased the firearms that he used in the massacre legally. When criminals want to get their hands on guns, they're going to steal guns. They're going to do whatever they have to do it. And once in a while, you come across somebody that's absolutely evil. and they will purchase a gun legally, and they will do that. That is the cost of living and freedom. However, one mass shooting compared to thousands of good gun defenses every day. You're not going to see the thousands of good gun defenses every day because this is the newsworthy story. And that's what the left knows. And then they want to expand these red flag laws, which prohibit individuals who pose a threat to themselves or others from obtaining a firearm. And they'll ramp up under the order, according to this report from National Review, or this column from National Review. Now, red flag laws, guys, I have a serious problem with red flag laws. Red flag laws, they're a freaking, how do I say this? They're definitely a direct assault on the Second Amendment. Here's what red flag laws do. All right, so the goal is to find individuals who pose a threat to themselves or others from obtaining a firearm. A threat according to whom? A threat according to whom? There was a story right here in Central Florida where a young man used his weapon, I can't remember, to commit some crime, or maybe it was suicide. I can't recall the story exactly. But they went and he lived at his dad's home. So they went to his dad's home and confiscated his dad's guns for a period of time. and maybe forever. I haven't followed up with that story in a long time. But when they first set this stuff out here in Florida. So a threat to people, individuals who pose a threat according to whom? What if an ex-girlfriend says, you know, this guy beat me, and she's lying? What if an ex-boyfriend or husband, wife, whatever, hey, this guy's a nut, or this woman is a nut. They said A, B, and C. They pose a threat to themselves and society, and cops come in and take their weapons just out of the sake of revenge, and then someone no longer has a weapon to protect themselves against criminals, or perhaps their former spouse, with all the domestic violence that goes on. Man, this is a recipe for disaster. This is a recipe for disaster, because what the left is going to do is try to use or expand red flag laws to take guns away from law-abiding citizens and anyone whom AG Merrick Garland deems a threat. You know who the left calls domestic terrorists? Conservatives. Think about it. All right, moving on. By the way, guys, just a reminder, please go to purehealth.com if you're looking to ignite your fat-burning metabolism, if you want to boost your energy, transform how you look and feel. You got to take care of your liver. Again, fatty liver affects 100 million Americans. This is why so many of us struggle with weight gain and lower energy levels. It's manufactured in the USA, approved by American doctors. It contains 12 powerful botanicals, clinically proven to recharge and protect your liver. Try Liver Health Formula risk-free and receive a free bottle of the nano-powered omega-3 to keep your heart healthy. Again, you can claim your special offer today. All you have to do is go to getliverhelp.com/Carl, getliverhelp.com/Carl, getliverhelp.com/Carl. All right, so now we talked about the executive order. Next couple of things that I want to talk about. Man, I really wish I would have had that new video, Tucker Carlson and J6, but that's okay. We got some good videos that I want to close out with and show you. The next story that I want to share with you. Let me make sure that I covered all these. I want to show you this video. This is Drew Barrymore kneeling to this dude. What is the name of this dude? I forget the name of this dude. Forgive moi. Good Lord. Anyway, we'll play the video. This is, I believe, Gabe, do you recall the name of this dude that Drew Barrymore is bowing down to? Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Let me look this up real quick. I just want to make sure that I get this information right for you before Gabe goes ahead and rolls the video here. And our first video, we've got two that we're going to close out with. And this one is before Drew Barrymore kneels before trans person during interview on her show. Okay, so it was, who is this? In just the last few years, Democrats, man, what is the name of this person? It is driving me nuts. Okay, Dylan Mulvaney. Thank you. A tweet from Charlie Kirk. Thank you. Dylan Mulvaney is the name of the dude that's pretending to be a woman in a very bizarre interview. All right, so let's go ahead, Gabe. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. This is Drew Barrymore kneeling before a dude, Dylan Mulvaney, that is pretending to be a woman. And many of you are gonna hear me say this, or hear me say what I'm saying. And Carl, you're so mean, you're so cruel. No, I beg to differ. I think people that allow people to perpetuate gender dysphoria, this mental disorder that could lead to self-mutilation, I believe you guys are despicable people. And I'm not going to let you sit here and tell me, someone that actually wants to protect women's rights, and wants to protect, quite frankly, mentally ill people, and not let them persist in their illness. I'm not the mean guy. You guys are. So let's go ahead and roll the tape. This is Drew Barrymore with Dylan Mulvaney as she kneels before. And I think this is, I think this is symbolic. I think Drew Barrymore, being a useful idiot, I'm sure she's a nice person. She seems like a really nice woman, but she's definitely a useful idiot for the communists in the White House, in my opinion. This is the chaos that the left wants. This is what the left wants to portray as morality, because if we all buy into this, that DEI, that CRT, that the trans craze, if we buy into this new morality, what they can do is shut the people up that actually believe in biblical values. And that's what the left needs to do. They need to silence the people like you and me. It's a scary thought, but that's what they're up to. And Drew Barrymore is a useful idiot for the communist left. Here's Drew Barrymore bowing down symbolically to the woke mob and literally to Dylan Mulvaney.
There is so much hatred directed at the trans community right now. It's everywhere. And I think the greatest weapon that I can contribute is trans joy and comedy and talking about hard, subjects.
Okay, hold on just a second. I'm sorry. I didn't intend to stop this tape right away. Trans hatred? What is trans hatred? What is trans hatred? Telling people or letting people know, expressing what we all knew just a year, 2, 3 years ago, that it is wrong for a man or mentally ill when a man pretends like he's a woman, that there's not something more going on. That's hatred. No, that's not hatred. That's love. See, I hate this notion. The left has made us believe that love is just this tingling feeling. You always got to feel good. That's love. That's not love. Give me a break. Maybe that's an attribute of love. Maybe that's one of many aspects of love. But there's also tough love. There's also tough love. There's also real love. Speaking the truth. Making sure that you really help people. I'm sorry. Looking at this dude that thinks he's a woman, I'm seeing a patient that's mentally ill. And the difference between myself and Drew Barrymore is I'm willing to tell the truth and she's willing to live a lie, because she's willing to bow down to the woke mob and I am not. She thinks she's being kind by telling this guy that he's not who God created him to be. I know that I'm being kind by saying to this guy, if I could, in front of his face, man, you were created for a purpose. You were created with a penis and a male's mind for a purpose. You were special just the way you were made. Let's go ahead and continue with the tape, Gabe.
And really intricate moments of a transition, and try to let everybody in to see that, I'm not a monster. I'm not somebody that, is trying to do anything but be myself. I think having my chosen family and the people that I love to take care of me, but I also think there's something just about making sure that you don't put something out there before you're ready, and really just surrounding yourself with good people. It's interesting because I look at someone like you and I can't imagine anybody disliking you.
Oh, please. Do you want to know, ironically, who dislikes me the most sometimes?
Who?
Myself.
Oh, me too. Oh. But I guess, you've asked me now, what I would do to combat the hate, right?
Yeah.
But what do you do?
If you read reviews, just like on social media, you are pretty much guaranteed a 50-50. Some like it, some don't. So you've got to be willing to bear down and brace for it. And I think
picking your battles too.
Yes.
And sometimes I think the greatest response can just be in the next joyous video or in the next win that you have, because that just goes to show that, like, you are continuing on, and whatever that those people are projecting onto you, it isn't actually penetrating.
I couldn't agree more, because another thing that you're making me.
Let me stop here real quick. I want you to notice a couple of things. First off, I want you to notice the seals that clapped in the audience. So please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, all right? The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. I want you to watch these ladies that are just clapping like seals in the audience. If you don't believe that women, left-wing women, are destroying this country, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong. Women are sitting there clapping for a dude pretending like he's a female. And we're the mean ones, and we're crazy. No, these women are just weak, and they lack courage. So God forbid commies want to take over the world. And these are the useful idiots that will allow it to happen. And just Drew Barrymore constantly just, oh man, I almost forgot my second point. Drew Barrymore just appeasing this guy, and this guy offering advice to these women. Notice this. It's all about how people perceive you. It's really not about being who you are. It's about showing the people that perceive you, don't perceive you in the way you need them to perceive you, that you're a winner. So you're going to make a video to appease them or whatever, to show them that you're tough. You don't need to do all that. Just be the person God created you to be. And you don't have to worry about all this crap. All right, let's go ahead. I'm sorry. This video is getting me hot, man. Good Lord.
Realize is to not carry on in spite of others.
I'm sorry, I just realized that I'm sitting on the floor with Drew.
I'm so happy to be doing this. Thank you for joining me on the floor. The floor always feels safer.
It feels nice.
All right, so sometimes Satan comes in the form of compassion. Did he just say that? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm sorry, this is not compassionate. This is not compassionate. I guarantee you, if this dude wasn't in the spotlight, in the way that he's in the spotlight, he would be having severe anxiety, depression, so on, etc., if he hasn't already. And he will again the moment he's out of the spotlight, because this will never be fixed. Anyone that has a mental disorder so severe that that mental disorder tells them that they're not right in their own body are bound and destined for more depression, more anxiety. We know suicide rate amongst trans people are just just insanely high. You're not nice. You're not compassionate. You're not compassionate by allowing people to end up mutilating their body or to continue moving forward in their mental illness. You're not compassionate by doing that. I'm sorry. You're the exact opposite. You're a little meanie, if you ask me. All right, now here's the chancellor. Our last story. Here's the chancellor, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, had a presentation, had an event at UC Davis. Let me just read some of this from Breitbart, and we'll play this chancellor by the name of Gary S. May of UC Davis. The stuff that this guy says, conservatives, take your kids out of these woke colleges, please. Take your kids out of these woke colleges. Hat tip Breitbart, left-wing and LGBTQ activists at UC Davis were arrested after vandalizing the university property on Tuesday during an event featuring Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk. The incident came just hours after UC Davis, just hours after UC Davis Chancellor Gary S. May declared Kirk a proponent of hate. The chancellor of UC Davis declares Charlie Kirk a proponent of hate. I think I saw Charlie Kirk yesterday tweet out, hey, I'll debate you anytime or something like that. These people won't debate. First off, I guarantee you this guy hasn't even watched videos or listened to Charlie Kirk make points or make arguments. I guarantee you he hasn't. It's based upon what he's heard. It's based upon how he's been brainwashed. He encourages students to, quote, neutralize and negate TPUSA's influence on campus. So protesters carried banners that read, queers bash back, quote unquote, also bash fash, I'm assuming as in fascism. We're seeing on video smashing glass windows while police officers tried to fend them off. But I want to play you this video. This is the chancellor, Gary S. May of UC Davis. Tell me if this guy is tolerant. And this video is over 3 minutes long, so we're going to have to break it up a little in between. But we'll end with this. And again, I want to reiterate my point, a couple of points that I made at the top of the podcast. The Second Amendment exists to make sure the federal government always works for you and not against you. All right, so hear that. Also, the left wants to replace God's moral code, the 10 Commandments, with their own moral code, be it CRT, be it DEI, be it the trans craze, because they want to feel morally superior to you, despite the fact that they're morally bankrupt. And don't let them do it. Do not let them do it. Don't bow down to the woke mob like Drew Barrymore did symbolically in front of this dude, Dylan Mulvaney. Do not do it. Now, here's the bigot, the chancellor of UC Davis, Gary S. May. Let's roll the tape, Gabe.
Many of you have reached out to me and others regarding tonight's event organized by the registered student organization Turning Point USA, or TPUSA, at UC Davis. Thank you for sharing your distress at a student group hosting a speaker who is a well-documented proponent of misinformation and hate, and who has advocated for violence against transgender individuals. As a campus that is committed to our principles of community, UC Davis stands with our transgender and non-binary Aggies in opposition to this hateful and divisive message.
Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Sorry, Gabe. Listen, UC Davis stands with what? Transgender? This is a university. This is supposed to be UC Davis, well-respected, or was at least at one point, a well-respected university. All right. Smart people are supposed to go there. The guy sounds very intelligent, says a lot of dumb crap, but he has a great vocabulary. These people talking about Charlie Kirk promulgating hate and all this nonsense. This is insane to me. It just goes to prove that people, even though they're book smart, may not have common sense. Common sense has definitely skipped over this guy. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
UC Davis did not invite this individual and is not sponsoring this event. Our Chief Campus Counsel provided me with information and guidance for campuses in this situation. First, the University of California policy permits registered student organizations such as TPUSA to reserve university facilities and invite speakers of their choice. Under UC policy, campuses may not prohibit student organizations such as TPUSA from inviting these speakers, even if the speaker's intended speech is loathsome and hurtful to me and to others in our campus community. With respect to concerns related to violence, UC policy permits denial of requests if the speaker will present a clear and present danger to the campus. And counsel notes the policy explicitly states the campus carries a heavy burden in justifying such a denial under these circumstances. Our counsel also notes that there is a similarly heavy burden for criminal prosecution for incitement of violence. In short, while I abhor the inflammatory speech of this speaker, UC policy permits the student organization to invite the speaker. Please be assured that we are monitoring the event closely to determine if a threat or incitement develops that meets that threshold or violates other campus policies. I understand and share your objections to a speaker whose rhetoric is offensive and clearly intended to shock and provoke. As Aggies, we are motivated by a desire to do what is best for our diverse community and for society as a whole. But as a public university dedicated to the pursuit of deeper understanding through the free, open, and civil exchange of ideas, we must also support an environment conducive to the discussion of widely varying ideas and points of view. We are committed to the First Amendment, and we are required to uphold it. But just as we support students' rights to invite speakers to campus, we also affirm the right of students to freedom of expression and to speaking out against hate and discrimination. For us to refuse these rights...
Hold on just a second. Don't you think his speech is inciting violence? by calling Charlie Kirk's words hateful with a bunch of the woke morons and useful idiots that parade around UC Davis, don't you think this guy is the one that's inciting violence? Can this guy provide any example of where Turning Point USA provoked people to violence? He can't give an example. This is just what the left does. And this guy is a useful idiot that obviously believes it. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
Would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution, the explicit policy of the UC system, and our own campus policy. We can't control how these groups operate, but we can work together to neutralize and negate their influence. We can deny them the responses and reactions they require to fuel their campaign of antagonism. Provocateurs like this thrive on conflict, so having to speak to an empty room would make a powerful statement. Seeing a community united against hate, celebrating our beautifully diverse community, and standing together in support of our trans and non-binary Aggies
diversity
shows
except for
those who divide
conservatives
us how hopeless and futile their efforts are, and always will be. Let me reiterate that you are not alone in the concerns you have shared, and you have every right to express your thoughts and engage in nonviolent discussions and dialogue that challenge and condemn discrimination, hateful speech, and hateful actions. At UC Davis, we are resilient, vigilant, and we have the power to hold those who wish to engage us to the highest standards of civil and respectful discourse. We have the ability to critically assess environments we are creating for ourselves and others, and to work together to foster a culture of learning that is as inclusive and respectful as it is passionate and inspired. And we have the courage and compassion to stand together and to take care of each other. As Aggies, this is who we are.
And this guy gets paid for this. To spew this crap, to spew this nonsense. It's unbelievable. I wanted you to hear it for yourselves because, see, we've thought for a long time that the smart people, so-called, in society, I think some people come to the conclusion that they're morally superior, that they're better, that they're really wise. They're not wise. They're not wise. A lot of these guys are useful idiots, just like this guy. And I don't want to be. It isn't my goal to be mean. He's just naive. He's blind. He's blinded. He's blinded by the left. They're inclusive, except if you think differently than them. They're inclusive unless you believe that boys can't be girls and girls can't be boys. They're inclusive unless you don't believe that blacks are no longer oppressed in America and can be held behind. Hence, he's the chancellor of UC Davis. Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's amazing. These people may be book smart, but they're not wise. And I would argue that they are the provocateurs. I would argue that they are the inciters of violence. Because if you go and watch the video that Charlie Kirk posted on Twitter, you can see, and Savannah Hernandez, you can see the violence that was perpetrated by the left, not by Turning Point USA, but by the left as a result of this, perhaps in part anyway, as a result of this dumb video that this guy posted. Unbelievable. Guys, we are watching the makings of a dictator. We have all of the ingredients that we need. Useful idiots like this guy and Drew Barrymore trying to weaken the Second Amendment so that the federal government no longer works for you and gets to completely dictate your life, stirring up chaos and telling you that women can be dudes and vice versa. You got a corrupt president in the White House and a fawning media that is unwilling to tell the truth about his corruption and how it's destroying us, embarrassing us, and making us vulnerable. That is the United States of America on the world stage. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please remember to subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast so you can get it right in your inbox. Please go to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. We're also on Rumble as well. Please make sure you like me on Instagram. We really like to grow there. Instagram and Twitter. We're also on Getter and True Social, also on Facebook as well. So if you would follow us on social media and again, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Rumble channel, that would be amazing, whichever you prefer. But YouTube, we'd really like to go ahead and build up. So, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Don't forget to go get your Pure Health liver help. GetLiverHelp.com. 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 That's /Carl. GetLiverHelp.com /Carl. Make sure you feel better, you look better, All right, so go to Pure Health and get that. GetLiverHelp.com/Carl. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.